Hello, friends. Thank you very much for a very good response to my last two videos concerning the Asia Cup cricket match. And in some of the inputs that I received, one input was that I should say something about the Sonam Wangchuk case. You all are aware that he has been recently arrested under the National Security Act. And as in case of most arrests, there are some who believe that the arrest is justified, some who believe that government is doing an overreach and unnecessary harassing a movement which could be in the interest of people of Ladakh. Now, whatever podcast I have also listened to, whatever news reports I have also read, and I'm sure most of you have also read or heard many of those arguments, I would like to say at the outset that few facts have emerged which don't seem to be challenged, and several allegations have also been there. And as you are aware, in case of allegation, allegation could be true or allegation could not be. Not could not be, allegation may not be true or allegation may be false. So what we will do in this particular situation is we will examine the likelihood of what allegation could be true and what allegation we are not sure if it is true. Now, many people say that he has been a good public activist, a winner of Raman Magsaysay Award, and that should also count as a positive point. Now, Raymond Magsaysay Award has been previously and most recently received by two Indians. One is journalist Ravish Kumar, and the award citation says for highest ethical standard in journalistic reporting. And second was to Arvind Kejriwal. In case of Arvind Kejriwal, we are all aware that there are serious charges and case is pending against him by CBI as well as by the ED. And from all accounts, it is likely that there is definitely some involvement in the decision making of the AAP as a party, which involved in distribution of cash for political purposes, which was amassed by certain activities connected with distribution of liquor, but amounting to violation under the rules and regulations monitored by the Enforcement Directorate. The second person we considered was Ravish Kumar. We all know very well that if you listen to his podcast, you would get a sense that everything that Modi government has done is wrong. Or to put it more correctly, any government may do, say, 70 things which are good and 30 things are possibly open to difference of opinion. Ravish would have a tendency to highlight only the 30 which have divergent views from the public and altogether ignore and remain silent on the 70 things for which there is a good public support. So I wouldn't certainly consider it as the highest standard of journalistic reporting. I'm not saying that everything that BJP does is correct, and I'm not saying that everything that Congress government has done is also wrong. A more likely and correct scenario would be that some things done by BJP government are right, some things may be open to debate. Similarly, some things done by Congress government were also good, and some things were open to debate or challenge. If a journalist is reporting with this perspective, then the chances are higher that that is independent reporting. So we know at least on the trend, this Raman Magsaysay Award, some podcasters say, has been motivated by deep state of the United States and some of the Western countries, and generally awarded to those who can follow the agenda dictated by them from the West. So therefore, while the award certainly speaks for something, it also possibly speaks for certain agenda driven activities guided from abroad. This is the first point. Second is there is no doubt that there have been certain activities and innovations which are well appreciated all over the world and in India, such as the ice stupa and some other activities. However, concerning that, if you look at the facts, the institution founded by him or him and his wife or his wife. That is not Hindustan, Himalayan Institute for Alternatives. What the fact has surfaced is 60 acres of land was allotted with certain conditions which were to be fulfilled in 2 years since 2018. But now we are in 2025 and these conditions have not been fulfilled. On the other hand, the activities conducted under this institute have also not received the approval from University Grant Commission. So again, there could be some good things, some controversial things, but the facts are clear that at least the approval is pending for a long time or approval has not been sought or rejected by the government. And right now, there are some questions regarding the entire process of compliance with terms and conditions under which this land was allotted. Secondly, the recent trend is there are reports, not yet challenged, and his wife has spoken about many things, but she has not at all spoken about or contradicted the 2 points that are reported that he has recently been to Pakistan and attended some environment related seminar organized by the Dawn Group. And he has been in contact with some people from Pakistan, uh, in which case the government is saying that these persons are the agents of Pakistani intelligence agency. So this is the allegation. It may be true, it may not be true, we don't know. But on the balance, there is some likelihood that it could be true. That cannot be denied. Because no person who clearly has interest of India at heart, unless suggested by the Indian government, would volunteer to go to Pakistan, attend some event, and also meet some people who later on are found to be under cloud from the government investigation. So this is the point to be noted. Then he is also reported to have met Muhammad Yunus, the current government chief of Bangladesh. And we know very well that since Sheikh Hasina had to flee the country and she was ousted, some say that there is a hand of CIA, etc. That we don't know for a fact, but there is an allegation. And uh, the present head of the government, that is Muhammad Yunus, is also reported to have links with various foundations in the US that are generally seen to be pursuing anti current government of India kind of agenda. And we also know that there were several allegations of atrocities against minorities in Bangladesh. And we don't find any evidence that these allegations have been properly refuted by Muhammad Yunus government. So again, on the balance, there is something not so great about meeting Muhammad Yunus. I don't see how meeting him would certainly be in interest of some public cause in India. Then we come finally to the question of the arrest under National Security Act. Now it is also very clear that there was a certain violence, there was disturbance of public order, which led to even firing by the CRPF, and even the some people from the forces have also injured. Some people who either participated in this unrest or they were allied casualties. That is not very clear, but some people have died owing to the firing. And while the wife of Sonam Wangchucks is saying that CRPF has opened fire in an unprovoked way, again, when we examine the history of the security forces in India, we generally find that they are very reluctant to open fire, even when there is a disturbance to public order. We know what happened in protest in case of Shaheen Bagh, also at Shambhu border when there were farmers' protests, I think more than 2 times. Lot of disturbance it caused to the commuters and some other people whose livelihood was affected. But I don't think the security forces of Indian government handled it with a rough hand. So in this case also, when the location is generally very peaceful and it is very sensitive, I don't think that Indian government would allow its CRPF or any other security force to indiscriminately fire. So again, the chance is more that there was some nonsense going on. Now, government claims to have some evidence linking Mr. Wangchuk with the provocation. That we will see. I cannot say that we know for a fact. However, on the balance, the likelihood is higher that there is some link and some connection than altogether absence of any kind of a link with his posts and activities connected with the group that he represents. This is what I think. Now, there are two other important aspects. For so many years, Ladakh has not been a union territory. It was part of J&K government. Under the previous governments, we have not seen any kind of a mass movement seeking independence status, either as a state or as a union territory for Ladakh. So while the current government has allowed separation or truncation by delinking it from J&K and announcing it as a union territory. So when a particular location is not at all an independent state, like for example UP or Maharashtra or the southern states, etc., while I'm not saying that there should not be any aspiration among the local people to ask for more say in the local governance, it is also not very appropriate that within few years of truncation from J&K, it directly becomes an independent state because there are many implications. So far, uh, that particular territory has been looked after through another state and now through the central government union territory funding. And because it's a bordering state with Pakistan as well as China, there are some sensitive military considerations also. And most importantly, when it comes to development and land use, now the Wangchuk led agitation is asking for six scheduled notification, in which case how the land of Ladakh should be put to use, keeping in mind ecological and other considerations, will be left to the local body. The government of India may have serious challenges for this demand because, as we know, in a neighboring region which is administered by China, that is part of Tibet, there have been a lot of industrial activities because of certain kind of raw material that is found in abundant reserve. So while ecological balance is also important, it cannot be the case that China, which often has been a hostile force to India, is undertaking under industrial activities using the resources of the adjacent land. And when Indian government has every intention to have certain plants there for conductor manufacturing in collaboration with South Korea, Japan, and I think some companies in Taiwan, because of abundance of silica, sand, and some other natural materials there. So these are also very vital to the long-term interest of Indian government. So definitely a case can be made that without compromising the overall country's interest, some say could be given to the local body and some balance may be drawn. However, giving a complete independence and completely boycotting the projects already initiated by the government of India would also not be a good demand. That's why this case will have to be handled with far more mature deliberation and not some kind of an overnight yes or no kind of decision, which some people are advocating. Also, some of the intelligence knowing podcasters have mentioned that in the adjacent land, which is controlled by China, there are valleys having huge water resources, which particularly would be not in India's interest if there is a mass scale dam or some other means or infrastructure set up by China and an attempt is made to the natural flow. That is, in case of melting, the natural flow is the water will flow to India. So China may try to, do something to either stop it or minimize the flow to India. So in this case, the future water resource availability also will become an important consideration for central government. And for such a massive project, if India also has to do something to ensure that it gets its fair share, I don't think a small population state, like a Ladakh, which has less than 3 lakh population, would have the resources and the other might to counter these kind of initiative that China may take in future. Therefore, various considerations which are vital to India as a whole are important. Now we come to the final point, whether public order was disturbed, which is a valid ground for detaining a person under NSA, because NSA is an act under which a person could be detained for even 12 months without trial. And after the initial 3 months, then a decision made by an advising body, and some retired judges are also in the body, who examine whether a case is made for extending detention from 3 months to 12 months. So if there is a mass scale agitation which disturbs the public order, that is a violence erupted, some innocent people got killed or injured, then certainly a case can be made out that warrants arrest under NSA. However, whether Sonam Wangchuck had any direct connection or even indirect encouragement, that would be examined by the government. And now we know that there is a challenge to this detention by his wife in Supreme Court. So there would be some legal discussions in the court, and he may or may not be granted bail. Because one thing we must remember, that even in case of Arvind Kejriwal, when the act clearly did not give any ground for release, a higher ground was invoked by the Supreme Court using some very broad clauses of the Constitution, and he was given bail. So, such a thing may also happen in this case. Immediately, everybody will jump to the conclusion that, oh, arrest was illegal. I wouldn't go that far. Maybe some higher principle or higher ground may be found purely by way of interpretation in one of the clauses in the Constitution. But that doesn't mean that the act of arrest itself was illegal, though he may be granted bail. And of course, I am not saying he will be granted bail. He may not be granted bail after court looks at the evidence and gives government the opportunity to file an evidence, and either in open court or as a separate submission, give the grounds for arrest with evidence. So that remains to be seen. In this case, I wouldn't say it's a 50-50 thing, because the Supreme Court in the recent past has often seen to be leaning more on humanitarian grounds. So that itself increases the possibility of his release under bail by Supreme Court. On the other hand, a simple act of mishandling public money is not as serious as the grounds that may be laid in case of NSA. If Mr. Wangchuk is found to be hobnobbing with elements which are anti-India, then I don't think Supreme Court will be that sympathetic. So because of these reasons, I'm saying it's a 50-50, and we will see. So friends, please stay connected. As facts emerge, we will independently and without bias examine those facts and give comments for your review and for your comments. Thank you very much. See you again.